those two camps.
Yeah,
frankly.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
And it's funny that because my pastor when I first got married was Brian Loritz, and
Yes.
and Brian used to talk about Bishop Ulmer in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But then he would talk about Tim Keller, and
Yes.
our brains would be scrambled. Like what? How? Wait.
Yes.
But it helped me to be able to learn how to exist
Mhm.
and be like, oh, it's a global church.
Yeah.
With many of us with
Right.
various
Yeah.
vantage points. So I totally understand that.
Yeah.
But bureaucracy, I think when you say bureaucracy, are you meaning like the tribal bureaucusties that exist?
I don't, man. I
Okay.
mean something a little bit different.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not talking about necessarily among like church membership.
Mm-hmm.
Talking, I think, a little bit more about this is a little dangerous. I feel a little Tim Ross-ish on this, so let me tread lightly here because he would just say it. But I think it's probably a little bit more along the lines of like pastoral leadership.
Got you.
So let me tell you what I'm dealing with a little bit there.
Yeah.
I want to use like a very practical example. I think within certain ecosystems of influence that there are, I feel like there is almost from time to time, I'll put it this way, sometimes I feel like people in a certain ecosystem of leadership and influence almost have this expectation that you violate values for them. And if you aren't willing to do that, it impacts their willingness to expose you to opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I lived that.
Yeah, so it's like, that's what I kind of mean when it's like some of the bureaucracy stuff. It's
Yeah.
like, yo, value your family. Unless I'm doing this thing over here that I expect you to show up.
Yeah.
Hey, but you just said it's my kid's spring break. Like what?
Yeah. What's happening?
What's happening? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's that I think is not tribal. I've seen that exist in a number of different spaces. But it's like, no, you need to get rest except for when I'm doing this thing over here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Or you need to be a good steward of your resources. Or your word needs to be your word, but don't keep your word for that.
Yeah.
Keep your word for this. So that's what I mean, like in terms of the bureaucracy, it can feel very
Yeah.
political
Is
at
this-
times.
Are we friends, or are we working together? Do you care about my soul, or you care about what I can do for the company? Like which one is this?
Yeah. Like recently, I was asked to do something, and it was like Mondays are really hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
We go 4 times on Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
so it's just hard.
Yeah.
And so that's my Sabbath. So I needed to rest, and I needed to recover.
Mm-hmm.
And from time to time, let's say if I'm asked to do things, it's like, yo, I promise you, I'm not being,
Yeah.
I'm dead.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
That's cool, but we need you to resurrect and do this video because we need it by this day.
Yeah.
But I mean, boy, let me tell you, I get it.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
that's kind of what I mean on the bureaucracy side.
Yeah. And sometimes when people don't see you, they assume you're free.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I don't see you, so you must be free. You ain't got nothing else
You ain't
going
doing
on.
nothing? Yeah.
You might as well be doing this. Yeah. That's the culture.
Yeah, so I'm gonna tell you what I mean, but I'm gonna be very frank there, like when
Okay.
it comes to hypersensitivity. So one, I think culturally,
Mm-hmm.
and what do I mean by that? I mean that our responses to what we feel like are critiques even if it's not a critique,
Mm-hmm.
but our responses to anything that feels like a critique now are responses of sometimes vitriol
Mm-hmm.
and even hostility.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you take a stance on an issue. It's just your stance, like your interpretation of what the Bible says about that issue,
Right.
right? Let's say you take a stance.
Yeah.
Some people may interpret that as a critique of their stance
Yeah.
or their life.
Yeah.
When you're just articulating your stance.
Where I stand.
And they respond in a way
Mm-hmm.
that's vitriolic and combative
Mhm.
and hostile, as if you spoke specifically
Yeah.
to them about their stance or about their life.
Right.
So what I see that manifesting, not just in the social media space, I see that manifesting as a pastor congregationally nowadays.
Mm.
So I want to give y'all a real example, okay?
Mm.
So an example would be, I want to be as specific and yet general to protect the people involved, but let's just say someone, it's hypothetical, but it's real. Let's say someone is in a relationship, let's say they consider to be unequally yoked. I'm not saying it isn't. They consider to be unequally yoked. And through a message, they get a conviction about that relationship. And they make a decision to sever the relationship. The reaction that we get, or that, like from the person that gets broke up with, you would think that I personally went to the person and told the person, like, yo, you shouldn't be with them anymore. It's like, yo, I taught a sermon. It was a bunch of y'all in here. I don't even know who you dating.
No, you're intolerant. You're manipulative. You're a viper, and you messed up my relationship by manipulating my partner.
100%. Yeah. So that's kind of like where I see that, and that's I feel like that is definitely different for me than it was 5 years ago. Yeah.
I relate in so many ways to that, and there's some friends that I have, man. They do not struggle at all. They got their struggles. They don't struggle at all with the fear of man, but it's probably why they are not missionaries in that regard, right? Because they're not sensitive to how people are perceiving what. But that is my struggle. So for me, I'm always like and I have to fight through that oftentimes to be, like, all right, where do I stand? All right, this is where I land. I gotta be okay. All right, and deal with that kind of craziness. So I totally get that. I couldn't imagine it being my own congregation though.
Yeah.
It's different when it's those people out there.
Yes.
It's
100%. So that happens a lot. I want people to stop bringing don't blame the breakups on me, guys. Blame it on Jesus.
And the tribalism piece, for me, thinking about you, because you coming from a missionary Baptist church in Mississippi.
Facts.
Right?
My dad still pastor one.
Okay. So missionary Baptist church in Mississippi, and not just Mississippi, like, what is it? Is it Kill
Michael, Mississippi.
Kill Michael. I don't even know where is Kill Michael, Mississippi?
I can't even, this is what I tell people. The closest city you probably heard of is Starkville, which is where Mississippi State is. Okay. But I think I was just there not too long ago. I'm actually going back this weekend. My dad's celebrating his 65th. Last, I think, census, bro, it's like 500 people.
Wow.
That's
the town or the church?
No, the whole town.
All right.
The whole town.
All right.
Babies, grandmamas, aunts, uncles.
So they need to name a street after you, because you're clearly the biggest thing that ever came out of Kill Michael, Mississippi. Unless it's somebody else I ain't never heard of.
Like 500 people total.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so you coming from Kill Michael, Mississippi. First of all, the name Kill Michael just makes me not want to go. I don't know nothing about it, but the name is definitely interesting.
Yeah.
Hope it means something. Kill Michael, Mississippi, Missionary Baptist Church. Then you end up at Princeton University, Princeton Seminary.
Yeah.
And now you're in Atlanta in a whole kind of new, I won't say new age because I don't want people to get that terminology twisted, but basically like a very culturally sensitive church.
Yes.
Right? Where you're sensitive to the culture that you exist in, which is vastly different from Kill Michael, Mississippi.
Hugely different. Yeah.
So I can see you, people not without any sense of nuance, knowing where to put you. You don't make sense. You know, what camp are you a part of? Where do you belong?
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about the facets of the diamond that is you. Like,
sure.
What part of you is the Kill Michael, Mississippi that we get to experience?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think all of it is like, and I'm not trying to over spiritualize it, but I feel like God used it's weird, but I feel like God kind of used those different seasons of my life where I had different stays at different places to like shape different things in me that I feel like are all kind of coming together now. Right? So let's just take like something like Kill Michael. You're just gonna have a high value for people because there's nothing to do there. So whatever you're doing, you got to do with somebody. You know what I mean?
Y'all got the Walmart.
It's just it. It's like, or you go to the store and you
Yeah.
just sit outside the store. But like everybody knew everybody, et cetera. It's a very small town, but it was like, yo, you didn't see homeless people or anything like that because it was just, I know this is kind of stereotypical of small rural towns in the South, but people just kind of looked out for each other. So I got a super, super high value, like when it comes to relationships. I think your greatest gifts walking your life on two legs. So that kind of came from Killmichael, right? So that relational side of me.
Yeah.
I think that came, and I think that shows up in ministry and in life for me.
Yeah.
So you got that part. Then you got this part, right? Well, I went to undergrad or whatever, and when I went to Princeton, which, here's what that shaped in me. Two things that I think are important. One is showing up in Atlanta. And one of the things that shaped in me was, Lecrae, I'm at Princeton Seminary, and very rarely was I ever in a class where anybody believed like me.
Oh, yes.
Because
people be at Princeton, they're like, yeah, Jesus.
Yeah,
he's a cool guy.
Yeah. It's like, I got a high view of scripture, but like they're never going to, generally speaking, people aren't going to ever use the words inerrant or infallible. No. Not happening, right? So here's what it taught me, though. It taught me civility.
Write that down.
Well, if you're in a room and nobody believes like you, and you believe what you believe very strongly, you have to learn how to engage other people who are believing differently.
Oh, I know that.
Without attacking them personally.
Now that's really interesting. You know what else is interesting? Is ad-free content. Like not having this interview interrupted by ads. And that's what I believe you want. The way that happens is by you subscribing to B-Side, where you will get seamless ad-free content.
Now, I ain't flipped the ad in there. I was like, what's going on?
Enjoy this interview along with tons of others without any interruptions.
It's good.
Yeah, so there is I think sometimes because I'm civil.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think some people think holding a standard means not being civil.
Gotcha.
So I think because I'm civil sometimes and relational sometimes, that people can make assumptions that there's agreement with everything. You feel what I'm saying?
That you are tolerant of nonsense. Because you are civil. Yes.
When it's like, yo, for 3 years I had to be in that particular environment, and I think you can't do that and it not shape you in some way. Now, here's the other thing though, and this is what's kind of like showing up I think at our church in Atlanta. And that is when I was at Princeton, that's when I got introduced, this is early 2000s, I got introduced to something called missional theology. Like the guy who coined the term missional taught systematic theology for me, to me, Darrell Guder.
Wow.
And so not trying to get too deep in the weeds here, but I'm going to overly, this is an oversimplification for all of the theologians out there. It's an oversimplification, but it's this idea that, the church is God's missionary to the world, which means you, in addition to exegeting scripture, you got to exegete culture and see how do you make the gospel incarnate to the cultural context you're in. So if I'm going to Japan, there's some things I'm going to learn about the culture that are not going to change the gospel. It's going to change the flesh I put on it. And so that drove my approach to church planting. It drove the way we do church, and it drives the way our churches look based on the locations that they're in. And so I think sometimes even in a place like Atlanta, people will come and they'll see who's there, or they may see the packaging. And they'll make assumptions about what's in the container.
That's true.
Based on the packaging.
As
opposed to no. Give it a minute. What's inside the container?
That's good. Let me tell you, honest moment. I'm gonna keep it a buck.
Sure.
All right. So I told you that a young lady had told me about you.
Sure.
Right? In my arrogance. I was like, if I ain't heard of him, he probably ain't talking about nothing. In my arrogance. I was like, I've been all around all the pastors, the churches. I ain't heard of him. He probably ain't talking about it. This was years ago. And then when she showed me your page, I said, oh, he's amassed quite a following. What wolf tickets is he selling?
Right.
He's amassed a following. Right. That's the presupposition that it's so sad that that's what creeps up because of the culture and society that we live in. And then, as I was telling you, I was in a season where I was just like, man, I wanted to do some identity work. And as I was looking through different clips and stuff, I saw a sermon of yours, and I said, let me watch it. Man, you ginsued the Bible. You was in it. And there was no arguing that this man is not using the scripture.
Yeah.
But I can see, because so many of the clips that circulate are not
that.
Exactly.
Yes.
That people are like, man, he ain't nothing but whatever. So, and I don't think people realize you're a real human being, and that does have an effect on you and the people who love you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and I think it kind of comes with it, and it's something I'm willing to deal with.
Yeah.
Because of the people I'm trying to reach.
That makes sense. Anybody gets it, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
What am I doing on the song with these heathens? Heathens look crazy. You rapping with heathens. I'm like, listen, man, you got your ministry calling, I got mine. I'm just trying to be faithful with what God put in front of me.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff that I hear you talk about, because I wanna go back a little bit still. A lot of stuff I hear you talk about you have a lot of, in basketball they say you got a bag. If you can go behind the back, you got all kinds of tricks. He's got a bag. You have it's like you have quotables for days, right? Like, your bag is deep. I'm like, where'd he pull this from? Where'd he get this from? And oftentimes what I find is some of the stuff that you say is not stuff you can get in a book. It's gotta be lived experience. Cause I'm like, nah, he ain't just read that.
Yeah.
So what was life like for you to be able to have this emotional intelligence, this empathy? Like, what have you experienced to be able to go there? Is it other people's traumas? Is it your own? Like, what is happening?
Yeah, maybe it's a combination of both, man.
Okay.
I kind of feel like, and we were talking a little bit about this earlier, like, and you mentioned, whatever the message you mentioned, I was like, I was probably right in the middle of it then, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I was probably like just kind of teaching out of the overflow of what I had learned to survive the season I was in.
Okay.
And so I probably dove head first into it, not because I felt like I needed to learn it to teach it. I dove head first in it because I needed to learn it to survive. And that was probably the breaking point for me there was like 2014.
Okay.
That's when everything in my world changed.
Okay.
100%. It changed. I woke up one morning, I can't remember what day of the week it was, but I know it was in October.
Yeah.
I woke up, bro, I woke up out of a sleep in a drenched sweat, my whole body shaking. And I couldn't stop the shaking. So I'm sweating, I'm shaking, my heart's beating out my chest.
Yeah.
I'm like, what in the world is going on, bro? And I don't know what it feels like to lose your mind. I felt like in that moment, I was losing mine though. I couldn't even get a coherent thought. It's like I couldn't, so like if you'd have asked me my name in that moment, I couldn't have told you. And I was just at the mercy of that until it just stopped after a few minutes. I just kind of came down. So my wife is waking up, she's looking at me. She's like, what's going on? I'm panicking, you know what I mean? I don't know if it's about to happen again. I don't know what just happened or whatever. So anyway, long story short, one of the things that we ultimately figured out through some help is that I had an anxiety attack, a panic attack. And I'm like, I got an anxiety attack. Like, one, I'm not stressed about anything. Two, I've had no issues with any of that my entire life. And generally speaking, things are going well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
so, long story short, what I found out is that what I was dealing with was, quote unquote, what they call good stress. So you can have low quality problems, high quality problems. Low quality problems as a result of things not going good.
Yep.
You have high quality problems, what I call backside of the blessing, problems that are associated with things going very well. And so one of the things that I realized is that in that season, basically, I was in with overcommitment. And I was in with overcommitment because I was people pleasing. And I was people pleasing because of the absence of verbal affirmation. So I found all of this out in therapy, right?
I'm about to say, you've been in somebody's therapy.
Yeah. So it was like, so if you asked me to do something, it doesn't matter what I had going on that week.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want you to be disappointed in me So the way I felt about me was tied to the way you felt about me. So I lived a life where I thought I was being kind. What I was actually being was a toxic kind of nice.
Wow.
And I thought I was being accommodating. It was idolatry.
Yeah.
And so that had me in the middle of probably speaking, God knows, during that time, maybe, I don't know, 120 sometimes a year.
Excuse me?
In addition to the church.
Outside of the church?
Yes, outside the church. In addition, so it was like 2-3 times a week. It was nothing for me to be gone 4 times in a week speaking. You know what I'm saying? And it's like the accumulation of that just kind of led to my body breaking down, not practicing the principle of the Sabbath.
Yeah.
None of those things, man.
Yeah.
And so when I started digging deep into that, I kind of realized that I could not fix my schedule till I fixed my soul.
Yeah.
That my schedule wasn't a problem. It was a symptom. And so what happened is, as I'm going through this, bro, I started reading the Bible and I start seeing a lot of the badness that we see in biblical characters coming back to brokenness that was unaddressed. Feel me? So I'm looking at people like Moses and I'm like, this man striking the rock instead of speaking to the rock, but this anger that he is dealing with is like showing up in certain seasons of his life.
Yeah.
And what happened was when he killed that man and put that man in the sand, he buried the evidence of the issue.
Yeah.
Instead of allowing that issue to expose a deeper issue he needed to give attention to.
Wow.
Like when he should have, instead of hiding the evidence, he should have been like, yo, what's in me that made me snap this fast?
Yep.
And so what happened was he kept winning without dealing with the issue. And he probably assumed that his ability to keep winning was like God's permission, when God was really giving him an extension. And that's what happened with me. It was like, yo, I just violated the principle of the Sabbath, keep going, not dealing with my issues. And at some point,
Of course, my tablet just died. Of course. That was a good one. That was a goodie, though. Goody. Hey.